So I had a question on TikTok asking about how do design decisions take place in a flat environment. And so I'm going to use the Left 4 Dead as an example for that because it happens in a lot of ways. So first and foremost, right, is Valve's known for their playtests, right? And if you do a playtest, you almost always agree at the end of that playtest what needs to get worked on, what's working, what's not working. It's normally really obvious. I actually like the culture of everybody in the same room watching somebody play or watching groups of people play on a screen, but everybody in the same room. When we first started Left 4 Dead, we had to split studios. We would actually all get pizza in both studios. And I think we used like WebEx or something back in the day. And then we would watch the streams of that. I really think that's important. I think that's super important that you have that shared cultural moment of watching people play the game together because it just ends so many arguments. But there are times when it doesn't. And this is then up to you to kind of win people over. And it isn't like you're bribing them to win them over. What it is you're building the case and you're talking about what the goals and the priorities are. So a really great example of this for me was one of the hardest days I ever had at Valve was the day we did a company-wide play test for Left 4 Dead. It was the first time everybody got to see it. No, Gabe had already seen it and played it. Some other people had as well. In fact, we had some people upstairs on the team. Like Gabe was for it. But so first of all, the servers had a bug that needed to get fixed. And so I got stuck in the room just with Gabe because Gabe's like, no, you're coming in here and watching me play. And he was just tormenting me. His favorite question he asked me, he just turned and goes, so why don't I just load up Counter-Strike and play that instead? Which is a really good question. You should be able to answer that. And I did, I think. I was a little stumbling. I was a little nervous. But he was happy then at the end of the play test. I had purposely paired him with people who played good together as teams. I remember if you watched the Half-Life 2 documentary, Laura played with him. So I knew like there was good experience there for him. I was surprised when I went to go talk to other people. Now, again, there's a bunch of other people that are already on board, already liked it, understood what we were doing, because we're about to commit, as said in there, like we're about to commit a lot of resources on this game. So it's a company-wide playtest, and this is back when it was co-op only, but it was all from like start to finish, one thing. It was tough. It was a rougher game. I think it was at that point. It was at an early stage. It was rough. And now, I'm not going to say names because I've worked with some of these people then afterwards on teams where they're really smart. They're really good to work with. I worked with them before this. But a lot of people came in with this Half-Life mindset, of when we were playing. And so what happened was I go walk to the other offices. Now, I'm happy. I'm leaving on a high out of Gabe's office, right? I'm like, that went well. Okay, that went well. And I go to other people's offices and all of a sudden it's just like, what the hell are you doing? This is the worst game ever. We should not have this game come out. This is going to sink Valve. This is a horrible idea. This is just a terrible game. And it was a lot of like, hey, we had no health. And then all of a sudden this swarm hit us. Like why wouldn't there's like, right. It's like Half-Life, right? And before you have a big encounter, you can know you're going to go find health and shield stuff and whatever. We did not have that. And my favorite was, and these are two people that I worked with multiple times on almost every other project, and I love them dearly. And this is why this hurts so bad was at start, they're like, this is the worst game ever. And they closed the door. They were going to just rip into me of how bad this game was. And one of the things that they said was, so one person was the only person left and they were out of ammo. They could use their pistol, but there's no way. They were getting swarmed. A tank was coming. They had to run. And they were just running down the street, terrified. Closed the door. Barely got in. Just had none of the tools designed to, and to counter the tank or anything else. They had no grenades, no anything. I'm like, but you survived. And they're like, yes. It was just like not well designed. I'm like, oh, that's the game. It's random. You won't get that every time. But when you get those times, you're able to tell me like second by second detail of what just happened because A, is so surprising. B, the heighten that it comes because it's not prepared for, it's not ready. You had to make choice that you never have to make in one of our games normally, which is like, just screw the weapons. I just got to run as fast as I can and hope the source physics doesn't hit me in the back of the head. And it's a great experience. And I remember them both of them sitting there just silently for a little bit. And then the kind of conversation changed. And it was about making sure they understood the goals. The goal was Left 4 Dead. You're going to leave your friends behind. Yeah, it is a co-op game to work together that sometimes you don't work together and you just have to run for it. And you have those moments because you actually carry the whole team that way. Right. And then it was a lot about talking about the goals. How do you reinforce those goals? How do you approach them? Are those actually the goals? Making sure, and a lot of that kind of discussion. And it was really good. And they ended up bringing always really good feedback and really good insight. In fact, in Left 4 Dead 2, they came back and made some of my favorite maps. They helped ship Left 4 Dead 1 because everybody had to help ship Left 4 Dead 1 and get those maps in order. But they really shined in Left 4 Dead 2 when they got it. And then there was the one outlier. So as somebody who I think I had a personal just misconnection with, it happens, right? You're working with 150 people. You're going to have that. And the person really did not like Left 4 Dead. They did not like the team at Turtle Rock. They did not like Left 4 Dead. They did not like that we were doing Left 4 Dead. They wanted us to do a different project instead. And there's a little bit of being mad about that. Not to get too inside baseball there, but there's a little of that because just how rare this would happen. And I was like, okay, whatever. They're still working on the project. They're still doing it. Like, I'm just going to ignore this. It doesn't matter. And then I walked in and I overheard them in the lunchroom to a group of people of how Valve should never ship a game that has the hunter in it. And it's the worst game design thing they've ever encountered, and just going off on it. So, like, that's a moment as a project lead, you can either go, okay, I'm going to pull this person aside, we're going to have this conversation, or you can make sure where you are with everybody else and kind of reinforce this. So I'm like, hey, here's the goal of the hunter, and tell me if it doesn't fit this goal. Okay. It is. We're making a co-op game. We're all working together. Everybody, those 4 players are all working together for a shared goal. You have to work together. One person only has to make it, but one person has to make it. And so how are you able to pull that off? You've got to work together. The hunter not only incapacitates you, because they were like, oh, you should have a quick time event or something for them or the smoker. And I'm like, no. We purposely, the hunter and the smoker both, when they incapacitate somebody, purposely leave themselves vulnerable to attack and are actually easy to kill. So if you're by somebody else, they can free them. Then you all of a sudden, it's not a skill thing to free somebody from a smoker or hunter, right? It's really easy. And then the second thing they do is the fear of them keeps you with your team. So it's just not their existence and the damage they do and how they behave against you, but it's the fear of them that keeps people together. And that's our goal, is to get people to keep together and not have anyone lone wolf it. If somebody can lone wolf the game, we failed. And so I laid that out. Everybody at the table's like, yep, that makes sense. They still did not. And they insisted to me later we would never ship a game with the hunter. They were wrong. I told them they were wrong. And I think if you play Left 4 Dead, you can see who won that argument. But I call that one out not because of like, oh, look at me, but how rare that was that the entire time of such a shift of what kind of game we were making compared to the orchestra. I talked about like the symphony orchestra of Half-Life, which is so beautifully designed, so scripted, so sure of everything that's going to happen, relatively bug-free. Unlike Half-Life, which we think it's like this beautiful symphony and perfect, Left 4 Dead is a college rock band. It's going to be noisy, it's going to be crazy, but it's going to be a ton of fun and everyone's going to love it. We always said, Half-Life and Portals will get 90s, 95 is a review score. Left 4 Dead will get 85 and more people will play it. And that was true. And so that's how, if you're in a flat culture, you win arguments. You don't win arguments by just stomping your feet or yelling or having Gabe's ear or being somebody's favorite. You do it by having goals, making sure you're aligned on those goals, and then play testing. Those are like the last one's the big one. When you play test it and you can see that it's working and you see people are having fun and you see that kind of moments that we would have in those play tests when we would watch people play Left 4 Dead really made it worth it. And then later, there's other ways you do it as a project lead at Valve. And that was, I remember, Versus, I've talked about this before, where engineers wanted to cut it. And they were like, there's no way we can't get this into perf. There's just no way this is going to get in here. And if you remember, we actually shipped only 2 maps and then 2 maps later at the launch of Left 4 Dead 1. And that's because we just could not get it to be performant. It was such a strain on those computers and what our baseline was and what our target was. But what I did was I brought the engineers, the very senior engineers, they're the ones that are in that Half-Life 2 video. I brought them into an office and made them play versus with their backs to each other. And they so shit talked each other, yelled at each other, laughed, gloated over, a good grab. I think someone pulled someone off a ledge that was good. There was a bunch of good hunters, Boomer, but like everybody had at least one moment where they're like, "Oh my god!" And as soon as it was done, they're like, "Okay, yeah, we're gonna ship this. You're an idiot. Like you're a jerk. Like because this is so manipulative. Because how do we not now, right?" And so again, like working with really smart people. It's not ever that they're not smart, but it's just sometimes you have to show them. And that was like such a classic moment for me of just like, didn't have to get in an argument. All I did was get people to play the game, which was a play test, told them the goals, and the play test won. And the play test won. Because originally they were trying to push back that the goal was, hey, this is about a co-op game working together. How's versus fit into this? I'm like, it's a party game. It's a party game. This is kind of elevates it to a different place. Let's go. And that was it. And to wind it back, these are some of the engineers that helped make the decision that we should split the two, because originally it was only a versus game. And so then it became a co-op game and versus being 2 separate game modes. Because originally when I started working on it, it was just both. And it was really discussion with them that we split it up. And I mean, in the beginning, it was versus only, no respawn in the safe rooms. If you wiped, you wiped. It was a different game altogether. And it was by play testing, working with people, listening to people, even listening to people disagree. And then at the end of the day, there's a bunch of people who I think started at one point thinking about the project to another point and being really proud and excited and happy about what we shipped. And for me, that's really hard to do because I just want to be like, just shut up and do your job. But it helps that I'm not that smart, and you can see the people in that video that I'm talking with in the Half-Life 2 video, right? They're super smart and super intelligent in understanding that I have to elevate myself of how I think and interact so that I can be near as good as they are, or at least have them help and understand. So that is how in a flat company you win arguments. Partially because they're not really arguments. Arguments is a weird word. But yeah, those kind of design differences you've got to iron out, and everyone gets a say. Because remember, it's not that you have no managers, it's that everybody's your manager. So everybody's allowed to come up with you with those kind of things and saying, we can't ship it with this. But yeah, you do.